BlackRock had an investment in FTX.
$24 million in a fund of funds.
$24 million.
Yeah, it was not in the core part of our business.
What do you think happened there?
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities.
Who really controls the world? Today, we're diving down the rabbit hole of the global elites. And this will be part 1 of this series because there is so much to dive into there. All right, grab your tinfoil hats. Let's get diving.
Side with corporate.
I'm gonna show you guys the company that owns the fucking world. By the time you get done this video, you're just not only gonna be perplexed, you're gonna feel cheated, violated, insulted, because the entire system is rigged. It's rigged against you from the moment you're born. I said it and I'll continue to say it until you wake fucking up.
Most powerful man in the world. Some may say it is the President of the United States. Others may side with corporate America and deem the likes of Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk to be more powerful. But there is someone else. It is likely you have never heard of BlackRock. In less than 30 years, this company has grown from nothing to becoming the world's largest asset manager. The assets in the roster exceed...
Can somebody guess how many assets under management BlackRock has? Can somebody guess in the chat, okay? How many assets under management BlackRock has? I want you guys to guess. Okay? So they talk about Elon, he's worth $200 billion, okay? You got Jeff Bezos worth $100 billion, maybe a little bit less now. How much do you think these guys own of assets under management?
Exceed the value of $9 trillion.
$9 fucking trillion, bro. Some of you guys don't even know what $9 fucking trillion is. You can't even fathom it. These guys manage $9 trillion of wealth around the world. That means they dictate where they put the money and what is done with the money, and they have the influence because they control the money fucking supply, bro.
And their net worth is equal to half of America's GDP.
They run the fucking country. These motherfuckers run the country, bro. From head to toe, and you're out here talking about Joe Schmo, bro.
Clearly, they do not need a name in the mainstream media to be successful, or, in fact, own and control the entire world. But who are they? What do they do? And how does this one company in America influence every industry and sector in the world? Let's begin with who they are. BlackRock was founded in 1988 by Larry Fink, along with Robert Capito, Susan Wagner, Barbara Novick, Ben Golub, Hugh Frater, Ralph Schlosstein, and Keith Anderson. Its aim was to provide corporations with asset management services to help them manage their risks and investments. The idea came when Fink, during his time in First Boston, lost $100 million as its head. That experience became the motivation for him to develop what he and the others considered to be excellent risk management and fiduciary practices. BlackRock first got its funding from Pete Peterson of the Blackstone Group, who believed in Fink's vision of a firm devoted to risk management. Fink's company then essentially became an arm of Blackstone, and it was called Blackstone Financial Management. In exchange for a 50% stake in the bond business, Blackstone gave Fink and his team a $5 million credit line. Within months, the business turned profitable, and by 1989, the group's assets had quadrupled to $2.7 billion.
Bro, do you understand how these guys do whatever the fuck they want, bro? And you think you're sitting on your million, 2 million, 100,000, 200,000, you're out here popping bottles like you run shit, bro. You don't run shit.
Blackstone's stake in Fink's company then fell to just 40%, as opposed to the 60% held by Fink and his group. The firm adopted the name BlackRock in 1992, and by the end of that year, BlackRock was managing $17 billion in assets. By the end of 1994, they were handling $53 billion.
Now the question is, and I'm gonna dissect this to you so you understand how deep and dark this shit goes. Whose assets? Right? That's not the problem here is in BlackRock is whose assets does BlackRock control? That's the crazy
And
shit.
later that same year, Fink became the chairman and CEO of BlackRock Inc. The company went public in 1999 at just $14 a share on the New York Stock Exchange. And by the end of that year, they were handling $165 billion in BlackRock assets. Grew both organically and by acquisitions. And in 2004,
Do you know what acquisitions means? That they bought everything. They bought it all. Every last bit of it. They bought all of it. You know how I know that they bought all of it? Chat, give me the name of a fucking company. Any company over the last 2 years that's had an influence over our country. I mean, they fucking bought everything. Give me the name of a company. Any company that's publicly listed. Somebody said TikTok. TikTok's not an American company. All right, let's start with Tesla. Boom. So what we do, okay, very simple, is we go right here, okay, and we go to holders. I'm going to teach you guys how to run this shit. Top holders. Companies that, between these two companies, Vanguard and BlackRock, they own 11% of Tesla. 11% of Tesla. These two companies own 11% of Tesla. Give me another company. Somebody said Google, Alphabet. Holders, BlackRock, Vanguard. They own 12% of Amazon. More than all the top ones combined. More than the rest all combined. Give me another company. Did somebody say Facebook? We got Meta. Yeah, Zuckerberg's a bad dude. Zuckerberg's a bad dude. He makes the decisions. These motherfuckers own 14% of Facebook. They bought it all. All of it. Do you understand now what I'm trying to fucking convey? Are you still fucking asleep? Are you still fucking dumb? It's ridiculous. We got Disney. Guys, the system is fucking rigged. Oh, well, let's slow down for a second. Let's slow down for a second. Y'all ready for some crazy shit? Let's see who owns Pfizer. These motherfuckers own 16% of Pfizer. They own the world.
So what are your thoughts here? Do you believe that BlackRock runs the world and Vanguard? We're just getting started with this, right? Like I said, there's so much to dive into this rabbit hole. One thing I like, this guy, he's very passionate, because he's trying to wake people up. I'm trying to wake people up. People who are watching this channel are trying to wake family and friends up. Because if we stand together as a people, we can conquer the powers that be. But because we're so divided and we fight against one another, we're sheeple. All right, let's keep diving.
Well, it's technically not BlackRock. It's their partner company, Blackstone. They're buying up a bunch of real estate, and they bought, I think, close to $300 billion over the last 10 years. They are the largest landowner in the United States. In fact, in some cases, they bought up 90% of single-family homes in a given zip code, and they rent them out.
How's this affecting people too that want to get into their homes?
You can't compete. They're paying 20 to 50% over the asking price in a lot of the cases with these new builds. You can't compete with that as a family that wants to buy a house in Atlanta, Georgia, or wherever.
So what should people be doing?
Trying to buy while they still can. You gotta hustle.
The world. There's a mysterious organization called BlackRock that uses its tens of trillions of dollars to secretly control the world. At least that's what you think if you get all of your news from conspiracy TikTok. The theory goes that BlackRock and another secretive firm called Vanguard, where you might even have your 401k, those two jointly run the world by owning all of the mega corporations and all of the smaller corporations. They've essentially created a monopoly inside of a monopoly. They own all of the companies in America: Pfizer, Moderna, all of the airlines. They own Coke, they own Pepsi, they own Apple, they own Android. They own Fox News, and they own Dominion voting systems. They own the food companies, they own the insurance companies, they own the banks, and because the absolute biggest top two shareholders of just about all the companies are the same two companies, BlackRock and Vanguard, the free market isn't really free.
So yeah, as you may already know, I am a conspiracy theorist. And it's not a conspiracy if it's true. Come on, do your research. Vanguard, BlackRock, they control the free world. Not the United States, the free world. And we're about to dive into the royal families that's tied to these two big globalists. Let's keep diving.
Three big companies, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. These are the biggest companies. They own everything, including they own each other. So it's really just one big company. BlackRock has $10 trillion under management. The GDP of California is $3 trillion. So they're 3 times the size of California. California economy is the 5th largest in the world. of all nations. Those three companies own 88% of the S&P 500.
I want to say something about RFK. I believe what he is saying about the food, he speaks a lot about the food, and a lot of mainstream cuts him off. This man right here speaks a lot of truth when it comes to the globalists taking apart the people. All right, let's keep diving.
As much capital as the U.S. BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard. Just those three control about $20 trillion, about as much capital as the U.S. GDP. But they use it to not only invest and provide passive investment exposure to the U.S. market, but also to vote for policies like racial equity audits at Apple and Home Depot, even when the boards of those companies didn't want to adopt them. Scope 3 emissions caps at companies like Chevron, whose boards did not want to adopt them until majority of shareholders, and I use shareholders in air quotes because they're not the actual capital owners, but they're registered as the shareholders, tell these firms to do. So this is a big problem.
Larry Fink, Soros, State Street, Vanguard, BlackRock, they're pretty much running everything.
Yeah.
S&P 500, 88% of the companies on S&P 500, 88% of them, the largest shareholder of those companies is either State Street, BlackRock, or Vanguard. These guys essentially have a monopoly. Well, how big is BlackRock? $10 trillion. How big is $10 trillion? Only two countries have a bigger GDP than what BlackRock has, assets under management, U.S. and China. They have that much control to get everybody to do what they want them to do. Yes, they got the kind of control that can make companies fire boards. They can replace CEOs. They can replace leaders if they don't like.
And they control wars. Listen to what I'm telling you. These globalists controls everything that's going on around the globe right now. They profit so much from these wars that's happening. And there are always some hidden agendas in plain sight.
So why are these guys doing what they're doing? You have all the money in the world. You live in a $100 million house. Not you, Larry Fink and some of these guys. I don't know if he lives in a $100 million house, but you got the money to live in a $100 million. What else do you need?
Right.
You got nice cars. Jamie Dimon's got a $900 million art collection, according to an article. It's a nice art collection, right? You go to all the nice restaurants. You meet prime ministers. You meet presidents. And then maybe there comes a time when you're looking at a couple of these guys, they're presidents and prime ministers, and you tell yourself, I'd be a better president than you, bro. How the hell am I not leading the country? Or they tell themselves, you think you're a president? You're not a president. You work for me. What else is the motive?
But ESG, how does that factor?
But the point is control is what I'm saying. So the motive becomes control more than money. After you have all the money in the world, what's next?
If you haven't seen this clip of the CEO of BlackRock telling us what he believes the next generation of the markets is going to be, then you're going to want to watch this. And make sure you watch till the end, as I don't think people realize the transition has already started, and if you're not paying attention, you could miss a huge opportunity.
This technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities.
And here's where things get crazy as I show you proof the next generation of markets is already here. The first being earlier this year, we saw JP Morgan stating they want to put Wall Street on the blockchain. And then just a couple months later, we see them debuting and announcing the launch of tokenized BlackRock shares. Another perfect example being earlier this year, HSBC estimated that there'll be trillions of dollars worth of assets tokenized by 2030. And then just a month ago, they announced they're going to be launching a platform that will tokenize gold for institutions. And finally, we're now even seeing governments give the green light to the markets to begin tokenizing. The point of all this being, do not miss the opportunity with the tokenization sector because the transition's already started.
And look at the impact over an investment lifetime. Do you really want to invest in a system where you put up 100% of the capital, you're the mutual fund shareholder, You take 100% of the risk, and you get 30% of the return.
I wanted to know how others would react to Bogle's claims. JP Morgan Chase offers more than 100 mutual funds that charge anywhere from less than half of 1% to more than 2.5% annually.
I want to get your reaction to an example that Jack Bogle gave us, and that is that if you invest over a 50-year investing lifetime in a mutual fund, making 7% a year on average, but you're paying 2% in fee for that 2% will erode something like 2/3 of your gains.
So I'm talking. What if I told you that all corporations are actually just one giant mega corporation? And I'm not talking about metaphorically. And I'm not talking about BlackRock. I'm talking about what's really behind BlackRock. See, we hit 1 million followers on TikTok this week, and I've been waiting to post this video since the very first video that I made, laying the groundwork of understanding so that we're all going to understand this now that we're here. So let's break it down real simple. If you're going to go grocery shopping at a corporate grocery store, all of these corporations are owned by these institutions. They're highlighted in red if they're on all 4 of these sheets. They're darker orange if they're on 3 of them, and light orange if they're on 2. And there's only a couple that only appear once. It's mostly the same money. But we go deeper. If you go for the biggest tech companies, it's basically the exact same list for all 4 of these. That would be Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, Fidelity, T. Rowe Price, Geode, which is similar to Fidelity Associated, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley. And then Northern Trust is on 3 of them, and Capital World Investors is the exact same thing as Capital Research and Management Company. So you might think, okay, these are the institutions that own the whole stock market. But who owns them? And see, if you've been around here for a minute, you already know. They all own each other. Just a giant cross-ownership pool. And this is where it gets really interesting. Because see, way back before I'd even posted a single video, I was sitting in my office reading this report from an anonymous user on Reddit. And he had noticed the exact same thing that I'm talking about right now. And he wrote a program to put all that data into a visualization so we can see who owns who. And I'm about to show you what he figured out. Let's take BlackRock, for example. This is a list of the top institutional owners of BlackRock and how much of the company they own. And if you visualize it, it looks like this, where the whole square is all of BlackRock's stock, and they get a percentage of that square based on how much they own. And the important colors to note are that white symbolizes us, retail investors, and gray symbolizes insiders that work at the company. So that would be like Larry Fink's stock, among other people. And everything else is other giant corporations, investment banks, like BlackRock themselves own a little bit. State Street owns some. Capital World Management owns some. Bank of America owns some. You see how this works? But then you think about it and you're like, well, wait a minute. Because all of these institutions are owned by other institutions, right? So what if we put that data in here? Well, he did. And it looks like this. And you realize that all of this that was owned by Merrill Lynch is actually owned by all of these other institutions. And a little bit of us, retail, up there at the top. But here, we've only replaced Merrill Lynch's section. What about all of these guys? Well, then it looks like this. Remember, white is retail investors like you and me. And everything else is giant mega corporations. And if you go one layer deeper, filling in all those corporations with their corporations, you see how this program's working? And so then we simplify it to just black, gray, and white. And this is who owns BlackRock. White is retail investors like you and me. Gray is insiders at all of these corporations like CEOs and other executives. And black is just corporations owning each other. We'll call it megacorp. This is the same process done for Bank of America and for State Street and for Best Buy, Amazon, Macy's, groceries, food, ingredients, building and selling homes, even less white, meaning us, retail ownership. As far as I can tell, there's only one company on the entire stock market that is not owned by megacorp. Can you guess who it is? Do you know? It's GameStop. Except that this photo's out of date because it's from a few years ago. It probably looks more like this if you believe the public info, which is a big if. But more on that another time. This is not a video about GameStop. This is about megacorp. Because see, when all of the owners own each other, all of their interests are aligned. BlackRock wants State Street to do well because State Street wants BlackRock to do well because they both own each other. So who is the real final boss behind all the money? Well, isn't that the million-dollar question? And ever since I've been asking those more important questions, my follower growth went from this to this. So you're not going to find those answers on this channel. You're going to have to go follow me in other places. All I'll say for now is that the next time you buy a product from a corporation like Nike or Costco or Best Buy or Amazon or any of these corporations, you're buying it from the mega corporation. They're all owned by the same big money. And it's all one big siphon, just vacuuming money out of our pockets up to the people on top. We'll make another video about how exactly they do that.
Yeah. Vanguard, BlackRock, they're pretty much running everything.
Yeah.
And then you see their influence in defense contracts. Okay. So we went through a deal. I'm like, let me see if these guys, this ESG, Larry Fink, Vanguard, State Street, if they have any influence on military contract, defense contracts. If you Google the largest shareholder for Raytheon, 3 out of the 4 top shareholders of Raytheon, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. Rebuilding of Ukraine. Did you see this contract? Rebuilding of Ukraine, $400 billion contract. BlackRock and Chase is helping rebuild Ukraine. And then, okay, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but what the hell is going on here? They have that much control to get everybody to do what they want them to do? Yes. So Dylan Mulvaney, who cares? Why? Bud Light.
Yo, did you just hear what PBD said about Ukraine? And that is just the tip of the iceberg. We need to do a deep dive on Ukraine, but it falls in lines who runs the world and why they want these wars to happen. All right, let's keep diving.
Apple, Facebook, Lockheed Martin, Tesla, MasterCard, DuPont, General Electric, Fox Media, Disney, Microsoft, Paramount, IBM.
Rothschild family history. This is an antique family photo. A lot of you want to know what it meant. Who was the nanny with the horns? It's not a nanny. It has to do with like this tradition, custom, ritualistic ball. And it's called the Rothschild Surrealist Ball. And it started way back then. Yesterday I told you about their family history and who they are, what they want the world to know. Wikipedia has a whole bunch of stuff on them, but I'm going to tell you what Wikipedia won't tell you. This means something. It's not just a weird costume. Every costume has a lot of symbolic meaning. Rothschilds are real party animals. They have been hosting the weirdest, most elaborate parties for hundreds of years. Hundreds. Someone asked me if that was the nanny. The real question is, do you see how tall that entity is? Keep that in mind. The horned figure has to do with some people called the Chateau. The Chateau are Freemasons from ancient Egypt. The Chateau were the people that helped Amun-Ra escape when there was the Second Pyramid War. You know, when the Anunnaki bloodlines started warring with each other because Marduk wanted to be in command and he wanted to kick out Enlil and Enki, his father and his uncle. All about that. And it also can go back all the way to the lands of Canaan and the worshiping of Baal, Baal. You know, the demon with the horns, with the goat head. But every time that they host one of these elaborate balls, you're always going to have someone is wearing horns, a deer head, goat head, horns. Someone has to be, because it's part of the tradition, it's part of the ritual. These parties are also a ritual. Important families like them will call them family traditions. I call them rituals. So the tradition is the hypothetical ritual. These parties are not just parties where you go, you have fun, and you dress up. There are after-party activities also. which include the ancient tradition of hunting down the stag. I really think that that movie about the bride that was marrying into that millionaire family, and they all did this weird game that they went around, trying to get her at the end, and if they didn't get her by the next day, then she won. You know what I'm talking about? That's the kind of after party I'm talking about. These family traditional things, which intrigues so many people on so many levels. Now, if you'd like to know more about how they descend directly from this high priesthood line that used to worship Ra and how they came into power through the ancient Egyptian god Ra, follow for more, because that's going to be my next video.
So I have been saying this for a while. It's the entities that are controlling these people. And we're going to do a deep dive on an Anunnaki, gods and monsters, and the bloodlines. That's a whole different, awesome, crazy rabbit hole to dive into by itself. But we're touching lines here with the vessels, the people of this world connected to spiritual entities, principalities, and high places that are controlling them, controls the world, who then leads the masses into mass deception.
Hi, I'm Tim Buckley, Vanguard CEO.
In modern Jewish history, and it begins with 3 words: Dear Lord Rothschild.
Dear Lord Rothschild, I have much pleasure in conveying to you, on behalf of His Majesty's government, the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the Cabinet.
Why was it that this letter was sent by the Foreign Secretary to your great-uncle Walter?
It's an interesting question because it was primarily a movement from Eastern Europe, but they didn't clarify who was in charge of that movement. And in addition, it was, after all, in Great Britain. So they felt that the Rothschild family should be the one to whom it was addressed. And Walter was Lord Rothschild, and he was a Zionist. And those really are the background reasons.
So Walter received the Balfour Declaration, and I have a copy here. And I wonder if I could possibly ask you to read it for us.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
So I had to pause it real quick because do you remember when Kanye was speaking about the Zionists? I don't believe he was talking about the regular Orthodox Jews and the non-Orthodox and, people of Jewish heritage. I believe he was talking about the powers that be, like these devils here, the synagogue of Satan, so to speak. If we go back and look what Kanye was saying and we compare it to what's going on in the world, and especially with these, Zionists, so to speak, we can see that he was making a lot of sense the whole time, but yet he was painted as a loony.
I'm going to put on my spectacles to make sure I read it accurately. His Majesty's government view with favour the establishment of Palestine as a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavours to facilitate the achievement of this object, it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. I should be grateful if you would bring this declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation. Yours, Arthur Balfour.
And here it is, the Balfour Declaration. What do you feel when you see it here?
I genuinely feel it's one of the most extraordinary moments in the history of the Jewish people. If you think it took 3,000 years to get to this. And then you say, how did this miracle happen? It's the most incredible piece of opportunism. I mean, if you think you had an impoverished would-be scientist, Chaim Weizmann, who somehow gets to England, meets a few people, including members of my family, seduces them. He has such great charm and conviction. He gets to Balfour, and he unbelievably persuades Balfour and Lloyd George, the Prime Minister, and most of the ministers, that this idea of the national home for Jews should be allowed to take place. I mean, it's so unlikely. And then he's, starts to fight a difficult battle with the British cabinet, and this letter goes through 5 drafts, as you know. And in the end, it comes out as a rather compromising letter. I mean, the essential point is there for the Jewish community to fasten on to. You have the first bit, which promises a national home rather than the national home, and then you have the bit that nothing that's to be done should in any way harm the Arab community. But you come back to the big point, which is that this is perhaps the greatest event in Jewish life for thousands of years.
And that we as a people are not afraid, and we are waking up to the robber barons and the big banksters who are looting this economy with the Federal Reserve.
Well,
the Rothschild family did start the Federal, they divided Europe first, took over Europe with Napoleon.
Don't exaggerate.
Well, no comment on that, sir?
Today we talk about a family who almost owns everything, yet is hidden from the world. If you Google about their worth, it is barely 1 billion. And in reality, they are worth trillions of dollars. Yes, we are talking about the Rothschild family. The Rothschild family's history spans over 250 years, with their fortunes built on strategic investments, innovative banking, and influential connections. Here's an overview. Early years, 1744 to 1812. Meyer Amschel Rothschild, 1744 to 1812. A German Jewish merchant, founded a dynasty in Frankfurt, Germany. Meyer built relationships with European nobility, trading coins and antiques. His 5 sons established banks in major European cities. Rise to prominence, 1812 to 1850. Nathan Rothschild, London, financed Britain's war efforts against Napoleon. The family expanded into strategic marriages, strengthened alliances with European aristocracy. Global expansion, 1850 to 1900. The Rothschilds invested in family members advised monarchs and governments. Modern era, 1900 present. Diversification into family members hold influential positions, current wealth and influence. Estimated combined wealth, $1 trillion, $2 trillion. Business interests, influence extends to. The Rothschild family's enduring success stems from 1. Strategic investments, 2. Innovative banking, 3. Influential connections, 4. Adaptability, 5. Family unity. Note, the family's wealth and influence are difficult to quantify and may vary from publicly available estimates.
92, the Rothschilds, one of the richest families in existence, held a private party called the Surrealist Ball, and the costumes and masks seem way too similar to what we saw in the movie Eyes Wide Shut. And I don't think this was a coincidence. You see, when Tim Cruise enters this party, he sees a lot of sick things that he shouldn't have seen, and a kind masked woman spotted him and told him he needs to leave while he can. And eventually he did get spotted. He was brought to the middle of the ritual, and before he was about to meet his detrimental end, the same woman yells from the second story and sacrifices herself to save him. The leader of the ritual then lets him go and tells him to never speak of what he saw. But once he leaves the party, he notices he is being followed everywhere he goes. He then discovers the woman that sacrificed herself for him, quote unquote, overdosed and passed away. Now put the pieces together of what I just told you and from the first video I made. Now, was this movie made just for entertainment, or was it a message/warning to us?
Yo, they have been telling us what they are going to do through the Hollywood movies, through mainstream music, and through the music videos, through cartoons, through social media, through every facet, to lead the people into becoming sheeple. Let's wake up.
Where did the Rothschilds, one of the richest families of the world, one of the biggest dynasties of the world, why are they connected to royal families? Why do they own so many things? Why is there an island in Antarctica named the Rothschild Island? Why does the Rothschild dynasty have so much power in the world today? What is most commonly known about them? That the Rothschilds are a European banking dynasty with the origins that date back to the 15th century. And the family name comes from the red shield, which translates to Zum Roten Schild. Mayor Amschel Rothschild, the founder, established his banking dynasty in the late 18th century. And the most common story is that he started out as an antique coin collector. While he was collecting ancient coins, he was also collecting ancient artifacts. In fact, the Rothschilds are known to have the vastest and most intricate antique and artifact collection of all of Europe. It is thanks to them that we have discovered the Mesopotamian cuneiform tablets that speak of the ancient gods and the true origin of our planet. Before, the Rothschilds' coat of arms was the fist holding the 5 arrows, each arrow representing one of the Amschel's sons, the 5 sons. And this emblem was to show their unity and power and strength. But long before this, who were they? So if we go back in their heritage, into their genealogy, we'll find that the Jewish bankers go all the way back to Mesopotamia, all the way back to ancient Egypt and the Second Pyramid War. The year 363, His Majesty Ra, the Holy One, the Falcon of the Horizon, the Immortal who forever lives. He was in the land of Ken. He was accompanied by his warriors and his line of high priests. For there were enemies conspiring against their lord. They conspired against their lordship and wanted to keep the shiny holy crown for themselves. It all took place in the ancient Egyptian city of Edfu. In this tale, we believe that this is where the origin story of the Rothschild begins. Ra's warriors were originally from the city of Samash, and they were also known as the Chateau, which, if we go research in history, basically Freemasons. They are the people, the warriors that helped the god Ra escape from the Second Pyramid War. Another name for Ra is Marduk. Marduk was the son of Enki, one of the 2 Anunnaki princes here on Earth to rule. And for this story, we need to go back to ancient Mesopotamia, Sumer, Ur. This is the dynasty of the Anunnaki. Now, usually when we see people that are descendants of the Anunnaki gods, they usually fall into the royal families. This is how kingship was established. But the Rothschilds are not royal. So how did they become barons? Why did the English royal family, the Austrian royal family, and the French royal family decide to elevate these Jewish bankers to the title of baronet, baron, and baroness? What was the deal? Why? Amschel Rothschild, while he was trying to collect these antique coins, falls upon these artifacts describing what could possibly be his heritage. Not only his heritage, but a divine right, a claim. So these Freemasons were called the Chateau, and these people were the ones that helped Amun-Ra escape. Ra's aunt was one of the ones that went there during the Pyramid Wars to bring peace. And it was with the help of the Chateau people, Ra's warriors, that they helped him escape. After Marduk, Ra was taken away, he left his rule to this people. These people then became the high priesthood line of Ra. In fact, in ancient Egypt, after the gods and after the kings, who were the most important people? The high priests. So Ra left his kingdom to his Kham, the Ra Kham, the shield of Ra, the warriors. So Kham translate into shield Rothschild. In time, it became Rothschild. You see where we're going? And this decree for them to rule came down tens of thousands of years ago. Who's the richest family on the planet with a combined income of $700 trillion? The Rothschilds. Before he left, he decreed that his kingdom would go to the Khan. And Kam, K-A-M, now translates into shield. So now we have the Rothschild. So Rothschild, a red shield, Rothschild, the Rothschilds, the children of Ra.
Yo, so I just stumbled upon her while doing this dive, and she speaks on the Anunnaki. So you're getting a little taste of the Anunnaki, because I plan on bringing her back to this channel. I mean, she's spitting a lot of gems here, and a lot of what she's saying I am familiar with, but not as detailed as she is. But here's the connection, right? These spiritual entities, are connected to the powers that be and the globalists who runs the world. Remember, we live in a spiritual world first, natural second. Everything is in the spiritual before it comes into the natural. And with that being said, who controls the world? Well, the principalities are possessing the human forms of these big globalists. What are your thoughts there?
I mean, there were reports in the past, but now the focus of the world are on those problems, whether it's droughts, whether it's storms, whether it's the seaside being ruined, just undermining life.
Everything. And in a way, has slightly, I'm afraid, eclipsed the importance of this conversation. No one's saying it isn't incredibly devastating, but actually we do need to think long-term about the planet.
Yeah, I mean, it's a distraction, well, more distraction, it's a tragedy, but it does have that knock-on effect.
Slavery hasn't gone away. No, come on. Don't be too focused on time scales and periods. History isn't like that.
I agree with her. Slavery has not gone away because we are the slaves to the system, paying these astronomical taxes and living check to check just to get by, while these people, they gather all the riches off the backbones of the people of the world.
Schools. Rockefeller was so amazing. He got most people thinking that most of the schools in Atlanta are HBCU schools.
Rockefeller?
A lot of people think that Spelman is an HBCU school.
It's not?
Nah. You ready?
Spelman's not an HBCU?
Watch what I'm about to tell you. You ready? Spelman is Rockefeller's wife. They dropped the Rockefeller. Spelman.
I don't know if any of this is true, but I'm listening.
You better Google it right now. I know what I'm talking about. Spelman is Rockefeller's wife.
Oh, Laura Spelman Rockefeller. Laura Spelman Rockefeller was an American abolitionist, philanthropist, school teacher, and prominent member of the Rockefeller family. Her husband was Standard Oil co-founder John D. Rockefeller. Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia, and the Lawrence Spelman Rockefeller Memorial were named for her. Okay, you learn something new every day.
So Spelman, the HBCU, is named after a white woman. That's wild. I never knew that.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Ain't that insane?
When did you hear that? Like, what made you do
Years
that
ago,
research?
because I read a lot, and it blew my mind.
In 1884, the school expressed its gratitude for Rockefeller's generosity by changing the name.
Yeah, Spelman College was named after Laura Spelman due to her significant financial contributions to the institution. Throughout her life, Laura Spelman was dedicated to social and educational causes, particularly for women and African Americans.
Yes.
So it's an HBCU. She just donated a lot of money to it. Rockefeller family continued to donate 10% of their income to charity, including substantial donations to Spelman, founded to educate black women. Wow.
And other colleges around there.
Okay.
It's just not Spelman.
Morehouse, too. Henry Lyman Morehouse, who was a Baptist minister from Stamford, New York.
Yes.
He's a white gentleman as well.
Yes.
He's a white gentleman.
Why did they name it after him? Did they say?
It doesn't say.
You're going to have me researching this all day?
But at least the world is about to see something that, because I'm quite sure if you don't know.
For the whole world. Oh, here, they already told you that the spell is over when Lizzie over there died and they snapped the wand and put it right on her casket for the whole world to see. Most of y'all missed that. Went right over your head. Now, what queen you know? All the queens I know carry scepters or staffs. This one had a wand. Only people I know that carry wands is witches and warlocks. See, they putting everything right in front of your face because it's revelation. You thinking it's a great war of Armageddon, but it means to reveal.
And wear this picture. Welcome to the rabbit hole. Do you know who posted this picture and where this picture is from? I do. It's the same person who posted this picture, and I will not tell you what they're doing. Someone outlined it for you. Sometimes the big guy is the little girl. This is Rachel Chandler. Here's Rachel with P. Diddy, and it says here she's 14. This is her saying it too. Billy boy. She just happens to make it around the most famous of people. Britney Spears knows a lot about this. She also worked for Midland Casting, which was partnered with Balenciaga. Those models look so happy, don't they? I mean, seriously, who is this woman?
All right, so that was a deep dive and a introduction into this segment of the globalists and who controls the world. The elites and WO, all this ties in to this segments that we'll be doing in this series. Everything has to be fact-checked on your own. Do your own research. I'm bringing these videos for your entertainment and educational purposes only. There are no hidden agendas here, but to find the truth and to, satisfy my curiosity and yours. As always, stay safe, stay blessed in these dark, deceptive times. HFC out. Peace.